It's Matthew Reed here with a lockdown workshop video. A few months ago I bought a new Seiko watch with a screw down back and a screw down crown, and the timekeeping was brilliant. For the first few months probably gained about a second a day or thereabouts, and then something happened. The watch must have had a knock or something, and all of a sudden it's gaining about a minute a day. So I had to do something about it. Of course, I could have sent the watch back under warranty, but it's locked down and I thought it would be quite fun to do the work myself. The problem then was I don't have any watch tools per se. So I could have gone online and bought a case clamp and a case opener and so on, but I decided to make them myself, or to have a go at making them myself anyway. I had some material called Polymorph left over from an old project, so I wondered if I could combine regulating the watch with some experiments with this material to see how it was useful around the workshop and what it could do. So this video tells that story, how I made a case clamp and a spanner out of Polymorph to regulate my watch. So we can see here the watch is a high quality finish, nice and shiny, so we don't want to scratch that. And I felt that this material, a thermoplastic that can be moulded, will be the perfect thing to make our case clamp. It arrives in this sort of granular form here. You can see I've used some of this before. So first thing is to get the strap off the watch so we can clean up the watch head and ready for its mould. So our challenge is that the watch has a stainless steel screw down back with 6 machined indents in which the tool will have to fit. So our first move is to put the cleaned watch head into a sandwich bag. The point of this is to keep the molten plastic off the watch direct. I don't think it's going to stick, but best be sure. So our tool is going to go here. We're going to open the vice jaws. When this plastic is warmed and mouldable, it tends to flow. So what we need within the vice jaws is some kind of tool that will prevent the plastic from falling through. So I'm going to make that tool out of wood. Basically, this is a sort of mould that will hold the plastic in place while we're moulding. We coat the wood and vice jaws with microcrystalline wax again to prevent the plastic from sticking. So just thinking about making our mould, in go the Polymorph granules, hot water into a Pyrex beaker, and you can see almost straight away they turn from being opaque to transparent, and they're ready to go. So we take a piece of the material and you can see it can be moulded by hand. It's not that hot. Place our watch on in the approximate position we ultimately want, and then we're going to mould a little bit more material around it. Now what I did here was actually make the plastic quite snug, and we'll see later on that it's reasonably difficult to get the watch out of the mould. So the mould has cooled. We'll just remove the plastic bag and see how easy it is to get the watch out of the mould. It's quite tight in there, which is great, which is exactly what we want for holding the watch, but we do need to be able to remove it. So I'll break away the wooden part of the mould, and because the plastic's still warm, we'll just push the watch out from the back. It needs some of the plastic cutting away because it's a little bit tight, so I'll take a sharp knife and I'll just trim away, and also trim a little V in the side of the mould, so if necessary we can put a piece of pegwood or something in there in order to get the watch out. So now it's really snug fit in there and ready for the next step. And as you can see from the moulding process, the watch hasn't suffered at all. It's all still nice and clean. I did try making a case back removing tool from Polymorph, but the little lugs even though it was a good fit on the back, they just weren't strong enough, and they were too slippy, so we had to abandon that idea and go elsewhere. So I found this piece of brass tube, which is a old barrel from a French clock, and you can see a few of the teeth are damaged anyway, so it's reached the end of its life, and it just happens to be about the right diameter to begin to make our case back removing tool. The barrel's too high as it is. It's got this lip on the inside, and also it's got a hooking for the barrel, for the mainspring. So we want to get rid of that and cut it down. So we'll cover the bit we want to cut in marking pen, and then I've got a piece of old mainspring here, but anything would do, just as a gauge to begin to scribe round and mark the height at which we want to cut the barrel. I'm going to use a jeweler's saw for the job, so clamp the barrel in the vise and begin the job of slowly sawing the barrel down to height. Of course, if you had a lathe, you could do this in the lathe, but I don't have any machine tools. So there we are, the barrel's cut down to size. I'll just tidy up the face and deburr the edge with a file, and deburr the inner edge with a triangular bearing scraper. Next we'll just finish the job with a little bit of steel wool to make sure there are no sharp edges or anything that's going to fall inside the watch. So we've had a vacuum up, and it's now ready for the next stage, which is roughly scribing on the tool where the watch lugs are going to go, the cutouts for the case back. They're actually about 2.2 millimeters wide, and there are 6 of them. So I'm just going to scribe sort of very loosely the 6 marks. Here's our next piece of polymorph, which is going to hold the tool while we file it. So we'll just press that down into there. Again, we don't want this to be permanently fixed, so you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little scribed lines. I'm going to use this quite coarse but small pillar file with a safe edge. So to start with, I'll file oversized, measure, and then work my way around the 6 stations until it's a good fit in on the case back. So filing was a bit of a faff, but it's done now, and the tool is a really good fit on the case back. Each of the 6 lugs is fitting into the cutouts in the watch case, so there's no way it can slip. And with it being brass, it'll be non-marking as well. So another tidy up now. I must say this Polymorph was great for work holding. You can see you can move the tool around to any station. It certainly saved a lot on the fingers. So another deburr, and then we're going to make the handles for the spanner out of Polymorph. So I've waxed a piece of plywood, and there we've put our tool into the plastic, and as it cools we're going to mould it to the shape that we want. Great, all done. So it's now time to let it cool, and then we're going to try it on the back of the watch, the moment of truth. So here's our case holder. You can see I've sewn across just to make it easier to get the watch out. Clip it in place and tighten the vice jaws, and it's time to use our spanner. Sorry you can't see the piece of brass going on the case back there. And in fact the case back wasn't at all tight, and this I presume is new from the factory. I was really surprised. It was quite easy to get the case back undone. So just again brushing to make sure there's no dust there, and mopping anything up with a bit of Rodico, and as you can see the case is now finger tight, and there we are. The job is done. So I'll do the regulation another time, but just to show you refitting the case back, Look at the spanner on again. Probably replace the back slightly tighter than it was when it came from the factory. So there's my story. We got the watch done. I don't have a watch timing machine, so I'll have to wait a few days to see how successful the regulation has been. But what I would say is that my journey with Polymorph was brilliant. I think the case clamp was excellent. Like all new materials in the workshop, you need to do some experiments and you need to get to know their limitations and so on. The case spanner didn't work in the first instance, so I had to use a bit of brass eventually, which was fine, a reasonable compromise. I would say the work holding for the filing part of the making the case spanner was great. If you have to either hold work in a lathe or in the bench vise as I was doing, then this was really good. It saved on the fingers and it meant that that piece could be held without damage. So I would say Polymorph or something like it is great to have around the workshop, incredibly useful. Of course, I wouldn't recommend that you regulate your own watch when it's in warranty, because the warranty and no doubt the water resistance warranty will be void. But there you go. It was great fun and thank you for watching.